Hey everybody, how's it
Good
going today?
morning. How's it
Good
going?
morning. How's it
It's
going today? How are you today?
good. How are you, Jonas?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I got a little walk with my daughter in this morning, and now I'm sitting here with you. I'm excited for this episode today. I think people are gonna get a lot out of this. So, unfortunately, we had some difficulties with the tech, so we don't have the presentation on the screen, but we'll do our best to cover everything. So, I'm excited.
Definitely. So our topic today is 10 strategies to tackle the tough times. I don't know about you, Jonas, but I'm definitely seeing a lot of pain in the marketplace right now. And I feel like it's a topic that like not a lot of people are covering. And so I don't know if everybody has read the book The Shift by Gary Keller, but Jonas and I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of cover that book. And we are in a market shift right now, guys. And I definitely
Yeah.
think that this is your number one resource right here. You can get it on Amazon. So check that out.
Yeah, I actually had not heard about it, but you told me about it yesterday, and I was listening to it at 2.5 speed on my phone, and it was just so many nuggets. Because for me, it's the first time.
Right.
I knew this, like I only knew this crazy market. So for me, it's like I'm in La La Land right now, trying to adjust. And I think there's a lot of good information in the book
Yeah.
that helps you to really get a systematic approach to what you can do when things shift.
Right, exactly. And the book is so step by step, which makes it really awesome and easy to digest. But like you being a new agent, like if you've been in the business just in the last 3 years, like you're in the boat with the veterans who've been doing the business for the last 20 years. We haven't seen the sellers market like we've seen the last couple of years. And then we haven't seen a shift that really take place this fast. Like the last time I think our market shifted before it turned into an extreme sellers market, it really kind of felt like it was, the signs were there. We had time to prepare. We knew what was happening. We could kind of predict what was going on. I mean, COVID was a little strange. Like we had showings drop off because of, the pandemic and everything shutting down. And then all of a sudden it just like jumped up because of the interest rates. But that was predictable, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
our shift, I felt like we blinked. Like within 2 weeks, the market had shifted and there was no signs for it. So it's here, it's happened. We're definitely in a market correction right now. I feel like this is a normal balanced market, but
Yeah.
it's going to be hard for people who literally could put a house on the market and it's sell in a few days versus now where you actually have to be a realtor and do your job.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You don't get you don't get paid as fast anymore. You have to. It's going to take a little bit longer for you to get from listing the house to the closing table.
Exactly. And real estate is it's a I can't say that word, cyclical business,
Yep.
right? It goes up, it comes down. Every single year, our market, especially here in Reno, does like a seasonal adjustment. We've got the time of the year where you make the maximum amount of your money, which is probably from like January to July. And then you have the time of the year where it's like the down part of the market where it's time to save money. So that's kind of like the natural ebb and flow. And I feel like there's three different types of markets. What do you think, Jonas?
Yeah, and I think you summarized it really well here. I wish you guys could see this awesome presentation that Kayla made, and we could pull it up. But yeah, so you're essentially looking at buyers market, more than 7 months of inventory, balanced market, 5 to 7 months of inventory. And if we're in the seller's market, we have less than 5 months of inventory. And I think if I remember correctly, last fall or between the shift between summer and fall, I think we had less than 3.5 months here in Reno. And I'm sure other markets are similar with those numbers as well.
I think we had like a week of inventory. Like when I was looking at the numbers from like month to month, we were selling 99% of our inventory like within that month. Like 900 listings would go on, 897.
Wow.
And now the just from like and that was pretty consistent January, February, March, and April. But April to May was really fascinating because we went, like, say we had 900 listings, we had 300 listings left over at the end of May going into June. We did not sell 100% of our inventory that month for the first time in 3 years.
Yep.
Crazy, crazy,
Yeah,
crazy.
that was the first time when it went up. So kind of going off of this, right? The shift. the market has already shifted. We're in this kind of
Mm.
new environment now. What is the first kind of step that you would say that you have to do in order not to drown? And I don't mean like necessarily like your business drown, but I think a lot of people, they get into fear mode. And I
Yeah.
think that, kind of affects what your outcome of your business will look like.
Yeah, exactly. So today we're going to give you guys 10 tactics to get through these tough times. And they're based off of the book. The book itself has 12 tactics, but we felt that there was 2 in there that really weren't relevant to what we're going through in this shifted market. But if you could see my slideshow, tactic number 1 is basically like, have you seen Mean Girls, where it's like, raise your hand if you've ever been victimized by like Regina George? Raise your hand if you feel like you've been victimized by this real estate market. Like that's exactly how I feel right now. And, and when a shift occurs, confusion follows. So the first tactic is your mindset and your action. Basically what's going on right now is what once worked is not working anymore. And you're afraid. You have to redo your listing presentations. You have to redo your buyer's consultations. You have to readjust expectations. But when the market shifts, there's only one thing that you can do, and that's to shift with it. And there's 2 shifts that you need to do, a mental shift and an action shift. Did we lose you, Jonas? There you are.
Nope, I got you. I'm here.
So you really can't control like the market, but you can control your outlook on the market. And I think the most important thing is to have an abundance mindset. And it's really just trying to like nail down like your actions right now. What do I need to be doing to creating opportunities, and how can I keep my mindset like just top notch? Some of the things that I do to keep my mindset up is, I do a gratitude journal. Sometimes I'm grateful for this real estate market, and sometimes I'm grateful for just the clients that I have that are like going through the thick with me. I also do a lot of like positive reading. I read books like The Shift. Anything I can get my hands on that's going to increase like my mental like stability, basically. And I also feel like this is a time, even though we have to take massive action, it's also a time to like give yourself some grace and learn how to like backpedal a little bit, and just kind of like, this is the time where we can like really hone in on our skills and work on things, but you can take a break. Like this is the slow time. And anytime that there's a slow time, this is your time to reconnect with yourself, reconnect with your family, reconnect with your spiritual ideas and beliefs, and really just kind of like dive into who you are as a person, as a realtor, and like why you're doing this job. What about you, Jonas? Like what kind of things do you do to like get your mind?
I think what you said is super important. I think for me, it's all about perspective, right? I think you mentioned it's really about fear of opportunity. You have essentially the choice on how you view this and how you perceive the market. Because when I look at the MLS, there's still a ton of people doing business. So it's not like this business has just gone away. It's just the way that I look at it, and I, emotionally then start feeling about it, and that will then translate into my actions. So I think anything that you can do to, improve your state of mind, as far as like just overall, and like you said, that's physical care, mental care, hanging out with family, just taking care of yourself first, and then you can go into your business and take care of your business. Because if you're struggling, mentally or physically, just like being well, then your business is probably not going to do well either.
Yeah.
So I 100% agree with that.
I feel like
is a big thing.
Yeah, every year I go through like this 5-week burnout phase, and I know it because like I've been in the business for a long time, and I just go into like this mental shutdown where I'm still working, but like literally I'm in pajamas every day. Like I'm in burnout phase right now. That's why like I look like, I just got back from the gym, my hair is a mess. I have no makeup on, and like I don't care because like I'm happy.
There you go. Yeah, none of that matters anyway.
Exactly. None of it matters anyways. But as far as like, now that you've got like your mindset, now you have to like take action on things too. So last month we talked a lot about goals. This is a really great opportunity for you to get clear on your goals, especially because like this time of year, I feel like is the last quarter of the year for real estate agents. That our Q1 really starts Q4. That's when we start doing all of our business planning and starting to like make check our budgets and look into our expenses. So it's a perfect opportunity to kind of roll into tactic number 2, and that's expense management. Anytime that there's a shift, you're going to have lower money making opportunities. You're going to lose some income. You may be able to capitalize on this and make a lot of income, but your listings are going to sit. Like I have probably like, I don't even want to know, like multiple thousands of dollars out in photography and drone photography and marketing and mailers and everything for all the listings that I have right now that are just sitting. And I've got sellers that are like, well, you know, if it doesn't sell, just take it off the market. And I'm like, I am put so much money into your house already. Like,
Yeah,
please,
no.
you know, just sell it. So, but anybody who expects change to be comfortable just really hasn't been challenged enough. So now is the time to like really dive into your expenses and get those lowered now. And I have 4 questions you should ask yourself, like what needs to be done?
Yeah.
What kind of money is it going to generate? What is it going to cost? And what is it, and how is it going to be profitable? And then yesterday you and I kind of talked about, you know, we have a huge, like different dynamic. I run a real estate team. You're a solo agent. So I'd love to kind of dive into like how you track your expenses as a solo agent and maybe some cuts that you're considering making right now that we're shifting. And then I can go into what we're doing on our team.
Yeah. So for me, it's really trimming off the fat. So I look at my, my overall expenses every month. I try to every week, but it doesn't happen. And what I'm realizing is that I have software programs that just do not have any return on investment, meaning they are simply for me to facilitate like an admin task or something that I don't feel like doing when there's really no return on investment there. So those are the things that I'm cutting off just because I just don't feel like in this season I need it. It's not necessarily necessary.
What programs are you using for those kind of things that you're looking at trimming out?
Like, for example, like I have had like 2 different CRMs and a dialer. Mm-hmm. I've had a text automation system, but my CRM has also a text automation system. So I'm like, you know, but I started with this one, then moved to the other. Now I'm like, well, I don't really need this. So I'm going to spend an afternoon trying to figure this out and then move it over so that I can cut these expenses. And most of the time, they just sink. And I mean, what I mean is like they get buried in all your bills. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you don't notice like that $7.99.
Everything's on auto pay. You don't look at your
exactly. It's like Amazon, Netflix and stuff, you know. And you don't really realize it, you know. Even if I look at it on a monthly basis, I was like, oh, I'll let it run another month, and then so I think it's super important, you know, what kind of dollar will it generate. You had it here on the presentation, and it has to be activity driven. Yeah. If there's no activity, meaning it doesn't reach out to the client, it doesn't follow up with a client, it doesn't get me in front of the client, then I'm just gonna cut it right now. I don't need it.
I love it. I cannot overemphasize enough that like right now you need to be coming from a place of extreme profitability. So your homework today, guys, is to literally look at your bank statement, your business account. Hopefully you have one separate from your personal account, but if you don't, then that's a goal. But definitely sit down and write down all the things that are coming out of your business expenses for the month. And then really like ask yourself, like, is this giving me a return on my investment? Like I pay $300 a month for Active Pipe, and it is a like a newsletter, e-newsletter, email announcement, you know, and the reason why I pay $300 is so I can have more than 300 contacts in there. MailChimp charges the same, but you know, I like the platform and Active Pipe a lot better. But I've gotten listings being able to stay top of mind by my past clients. You know, just I've gotten 3 just over the last couple months since I really dived in and got serious. So most of the people would be like, oh, $300 for an e-newsletter. I'm like, oh, you know, that's working for me.
Well, and it's also, I think the most important part is you don't confuse return on investment, or don't bring that area into the way that you service your clients.
Right.
You might not see a return on investment the way that you service your clients, where you might be spending more money. Those are expenses, in my opinion, that you should definitely not cut. Yeah. Anything that adds value to your clients and that separates you or is in your value proposition, you need to keep that. That's the stuff that's important.
Yeah. And really when you're reviewing your expenses and your budget, nothing is untouchable. Like scrutinize every little dollar that you spend. In this book, I highlighted this section, which I think is going to be really helpful for people. but it says attack both variable and fixed expenses. Your variable expenses are hidden fees, add-on fees you've been unaware of, overcharges from lack of attention to your statements, unnecessary work that should be postponed or canceled, waste that's gone unchecked, and ineffective expenditures that have been returning zero results. It also applies to fixed expenses. Fixed expenses are always agreements that usually fall into the categories of your car payment, your rent, your leases, your advertising, phone, any salaries that you pay. You're best served by thinking of ways to turn a fixed into a variable. If you can get out of them, get out. So I also think that in addition to your business expenses, you should be looking at your home expenses. Like, do you need a Netflix account? Like, we found this company online that literally streams Netflix. It's all of it, right? It's called like Flickster or something like that, but it has every movie. So I canceled my cable. I canceled Netflix. The only thing I have right now is Prime and Flickster, and like all of my like streaming is covered. But I was able to like cut out $100 out of my cable bill. I just pay for internet now.
Yeah.
I refinanced my car. My payment got cut in half. Any little thing that you can do, talk to your cell phone companies, like get those bills down now.
Yeah, it adds up. It adds up. Yeah. It definitely does.
What about tactic number 3? Let's roll into that one.
Leverage. I love this one because the first thing that I think about leverage in real estate is using other people's money. But in this case, as you said here, it's really focusing on the stuff to work smarter and not harder. So how can you essentially, for me, I think about how I can get more done in the given time that I already have, and what are the tasks that I should spend kind of the most amount of time on. So kind of bouncing off of what we talked about with the expenses, what is the number one activity that I should be doing every day that drives the most results? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that activity and just dial up the amount that I'm doing. So if I see that 2 hours, or that, let's just say 2 hours of prospecting a day gets me one appointment, then I'm going to increase that activity. If I know that 2 open houses on the weekends on a Saturday get me 1 to 2 buyers, then I'm going to try to do 4 this weekend. So I'm not going to try to learn a ton of new stuff that I don't know and try to increase that and try to learn a new skill. I'm going to take the skill that I have and I'm going to increase the amount of practice and of activity.
That's awesome. So I heard this one thing like when I was a new agent, and it blew my mind. So in America, open houses that run for like 3 to 4 hours is totally standard. Like most agents will only do 1 open house a day on the weekend. But in like Europe and Australia and other countries, because like I've had an incredible opportunity to connect with agents around the world, and they do 1 hour open houses, and they try to host 4 to 5 a day. They literally like put out their
split them up.
Yeah, they literally will put out their signs. They'll start at like 9 a.m., put out their signs at 8:30. By 10 a.m., they're packing up. They're on their way. Next open house starts at 11. They go set up their sign, and they literally go from one open house to the next, and they do 4 to 5 open houses for 1 hour only every weekend on Saturday and Sunday.
That might be something to think about.
Yeah. And I also had a conversation with one of the agents on my team that we are basically like doing open houses maybe during the week. Like if you're going to be in the office, like you might as well be in a house. Like we don't really have the opportunity in our office to get walk-in traffic. So why not go sit at an open house and work out an AC conditioned open house all day long, and then have people come to you is another really great thing that you can do to leverage like open houses and kind of step it up.
And if you're someone that, you might not have like a lot of listings, maybe talk a little bit about that, because I know that a lot of agents that have a lot of listings, they will happily let you host an open house. And I'm sure, especially if it's during the week and if it's vacant, I mean, it's a win-win situation for everybody, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I have a couple of listings that are like prime locations. Like you need 3 signs. Like it's perfect, right? But if you don't have any listings to hold open, go and ask your brokerage. At EXP, we have the EXP we have the EXP World, and then we also have Workplace. So it's really kind of a great all access that you can get to like all of the EXP agents, and ask if you can hold their house open. Also in our MLS, we can sort listings by brokerage. So I just go in and I click like all the EXP brokerage options and then throw it in there and then run a list of all the actives. And I start calling the agents, and that's what my girls do. Like if we don't have listings to hold open, I tell them, reach out to our EXP network, talk to those agents. Not only is that going to give you a really fantastic connection, but like if you end up bringing a buyer to that agent, like how high is the probability that your offer is going to be accepted? You're going to probably have more favorable terms for your client. If an agent came to me and was like, hey, can I hold your listing open? I'd be like, absolutely. Thank you, because our sellers want them now. Like before, like in the
COVID times.
Market,
yeah.
The house would be sold. We wouldn't even need to have to do an open house, And now we've got houses that need like an open house every single weekend. So listing agents, we need open houses. If you need an open house, please come talk to us. Like we would be so grateful.
And going back to leverage, right? You're already there. Then take a video walkthrough, put it on your social media, door knock 10 houses up the street, 10 houses down the street, leave some door hangers, obviously check with the listing agent, but that's what I mean. It's like when I go on an appointment, I'm already driving there. So I'm going to check out the neighborhood. I'm going to knock a couple doors. That's what really leverage means. Like I'm already doing the activity. How can I pull more in without doing, a whole bunch more and spending hours and hours on another strategy or what have you?
So I've got something better for you for open houses. Instead of door hangers, what I do is I make an invitation in Canva. And it's for the neighbors only. So it's very like laid out that this is a neighbors only invitation. We have a preview before our open house. So we'll either do it like Friday night or we'll do it like Saturday morning. And we actually put it in a white blank envelope and handwrite their name on the outside. So that way, when we're knocking on the door, we're like, hey, we have an invitation for you here. I mean, it looks like an invitation. And it gets the conversation going, because the way that I see it is, when I'm door knocking, I really am not door knocking to get people to come to the open house. I'm door knocking for more listing opportunities. I'm
absolutely
that open house to get another listing or get a listing in that neighborhood. And so the more that I can do to the surrounding homeowners, the more that they're going to see like, oh, that girl actually is on there. We've had open houses in this neighborhood all summer long, and we haven't had a single agent come by and invite us to it. So anything that you can do to like differentiate yourself from like the market and what other agents are doing, like is a step above. Like other agents are doing door hangers, like level up and do a custom invitation for that homeowner.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. The 6 core components of a business. Is that what it is?
Competencies, big words, it's whatever. It's straight out of the book. But basically in a shifting market, this is what this book is saying that we should focus on as far as leverage. And that's to lead generate, capture, and convert those to appointments. You're going to present to buyers and sellers and get contracts. So your buyer consultations and your listing consultations, show buyers and market sellers. So showing homes, doing listing marketing, writing and negotiate contracts, coordinate the sale to closing, and manage your money. So if like all of these things on here, these are all money making activities. If it's not on this list, like email, making flyers, doing those kind of things, like you should not be focusing on that right now. Like you need to leverage an employee or an admin or somebody to help you out with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think that, in a world where you're focusing on that and that has time in your schedule, you're missing out on generating more opportunities. That should be your only focus, is your money making activities. The other stuff, I feel like it always gets taken care of anyway. It's almost like you're running and then somebody throws your water bottle and you just catch it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like that's when emails come in or admin stuff. It's like it's a very reactive part of the business where you can do that very you don't have to sit down and like think about it, you know, a lot,
Yeah.
unless you're working on an in-depth transaction with a huge, you know, problem or what have you. But
Right. Well, if it
I
involves
think
a real
anything that you
estate
can slim
license,
down,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, anything that you can slim down, just focus on more activity and producing more opportunities for yourself. That's what you should focus on.
Right, and exactly. And if you're not in a position to like hire an admin or get some help, then during your business hours, 9 to 5, like don't touch that stuff. That's the time where you're sitting on your couch after your kids go to bed and you're working on those things, those tasks, you know, during your downtime. And it sucks, but like we don't have a set schedule, you know?
Yeah,
And
exactly. I mean, yeah, it sucks and it doesn't, right? It's kind of it's a double-edged sword for sure.
exactly. You know, there's a lot of nights that I'm up until like 10, 11 o'clock at night, you know, working for a
Yeah,
couple of hours. And, you know, after my kids go to bed from 9 to 11, and, you know, but I can wake up and focus on my things the next day.
exactly.
But yeah. And then as the other thing I want to mention before we move on, excuse me, is making sure that you're leveraging the systems that you have. And really making sure that they're bulletproof. Like when you capture a lead, do you have a system for that? When you go to an open house, you have a system for that. Like you should have something written down, step 1, step 2, step 3. And if you don't, now is a really perfect opportunity to take advantage of the lull in the market to really sharpen those skills like ASAP.
Yep. Yep. And that falls into what we just talked about in 3 and leverage too, is leverage your systems so
Yeah.
that you don't have to think about it anymore. It's just kind of
Right.
like automatic, right?
Right, exactly. So tactic number 4 is lead generation. And I'm going to beat a dead horse here because I feel like we all know that we need to lead generate, but we don't actually do it. There is probably one agent in my office that I have witnessed personally lead generating on a consistent basis. In a brokerage full of agents, that's really concerning to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because I've told you this before. I started just someone hammering me on getting on the phone. So I thought that this is what everybody does. So when I would go into offices and I saw nobody on the phone, I was kind of confused and I was questioning if I was doing something wrong and what are these people doing? You know, so it's interesting that you say that because as a new agent, or fairly new agent, you know, I started 2 years ago. It was just something that I thought everybody did. Like that was just like the thing that you do. It's like a cook cooking on the grill. It's like real estate agents are on the phone. They generate leads on the phone.
Exactly. When I was a new agent, I went around to all of like the really like high performers in my office. And I said, like, okay, how did you get here? And what do you hate doing the most? And they told me that, you know, they worked really hard. They were on the phones all the time. They were door knocking. Like lead generation was how they built their business. They're 100% referral based, so they don't really have to do that much anymore. But they hated making the phone calls. The phone calls.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's just and I don't blame anybody. I do too, and I think it's just a fear of rejection, you know. And it's just that we're just not wired that way. Humans aren't. We're not, you know, that type of species where like we can just let that go easily. It was a huge struggle for me in the beginning, especially when I would get negative feedback and I would get, you know, yelled at and stuff. That would stick with me for the rest for the rest of the day. So I think just finding something that you are able to tolerate, and what I mean tolerate, it's not gonna all these shiny object syndromes that are out there that you see on Facebook ads and what have you that tell you, hey, make $1 million in real estate without doing anything.
Yeah.
It's just not gonna happen. Like whatever you do, it's gonna have to suck, and you're gonna suck in the beginning, and then you
Yeah.
get better, and then it gets easier.
Right. Well, in a shifting market, fewer leads start coming through, fewer showings happen, increased days on
Yep.
market happen. The minute these signs show up, you need to take notice and not ignore them. Don't wait to start acting on it. Like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, we experienced a shift like overnight. We didn't really have a whole lot of time to prepare, but like we are in the thick of it. We know what's going on. These early signals will kind of signify what's coming next, and that's more inventory, fewer pendings. So it's a shift. Demand slows down, supply picks up, we have more inventory. You know, so it's just we really have to hone in on that lead generation right now. And I have a step for you to figure out like where you should be putting your lead generation activities. And that's identifying your lead source. And every agent should be doing this like at the end of the year anyways, or at the last quarter of the year, is go into your MLS, print off your list of all of your solds for the last 12 months, and go and write down the source for every single one of those. And then kind of do a tally. Oh, thank you. Sorry, my computer's going to die. My daughter just saved my life.
Oh, there you go. I thought she was bringing you coffee. That's what I want. Right
no,
now.
I'm still drinking that. Will it reach? Oh, yeah, maybe that one right there. Sorry. So basically, you're going to write down, your door knocking. How many closings did that get you? Your calls to your sphere. How many closings did that get you? Agent referrals, direct mail, for sale by owners, open house, all the things, right? And then you're going to prioritize them. So you're going to go from the one that like gave you the most, and then you're going to kind of keep a list going. And then you're going to only focus on the top 5. So anything under that is not a priority. The ones that are the priority are the ones that generated the most business. So like for me, referrals, agent referrals, and personal referrals, those are my number 2. And I know that because I track my stuff. And so I'm going to figure out in the next 12 months while we're going through this shifting market, how can I increase the ability to get more? How am I going to put more money into that? Am I going to put more money into my sphere? Things like that, and it's really going to help me build my budget around like the 5 most important lead generation sources that I have.
Yeah, absolutely. I think 5 is a really good number. I think if you do less, you run into the probability that you'll run dry on one of them. And then if you go more, it's hard to focus on so many things at once. So I think 5 is a really good number. And then you had it here pretty well laid out on the list. The focus was, you mentioned here, expired, withdrawn, door knocking, calls to sphere, direct mail, newsletters, and open houses. 1, 2, 3. They're pretty much 4 out of those are $0 spent on advertising. Like they don't cost anything. You can pick up the phone. Right. You can look up your expireds in the MLS. Door knocking doesn't cost anything. Calls to sphere don't cost anything. Direct mail, newsletter, you're going to spend a little bit, but it's not that much. Open houses.
And honestly, like with direct mail, like pick a neighborhood that you want to farm, and then say you can only afford $100 a month. Spend $100 a month in postage to send to that specific neighborhood, and then when you get a sale out of it, increase your budget. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah. And then the other thing too that just kind of blows my mind is buyer leads. Those cost money. Seller leads are free. Remember that. Okay. Buyer leads are expensive.
Yeah.
Seller leads are free.
And you most of the time will get a buyer lead while you pick up that listing, which is crazy. So, your ROI on this whole focusing on sellers is much, much higher, in my opinion.
Right, exactly. I mean, listings do take longer to sell, so be aware you're going to do some upfront marketing stuff. But in the book, I thought this was really fantastic. Time blocking is really kind of a major crisis. I feel like in our industry, we have so much unlimited power to choose what we get to do with our lives that we actually don't do anything at all. So there is a 3-hour prospecting formula in this book that I think is rather genius, because you can do this at the beginning of your day as soon as you get into the office. I teach a ninja class every Friday at my brokerage. And I asked everybody last week, what was the first thing that you do when you get to the office? And everybody said check their email. So we're not going to check our email first thing in the morning. That's how we get on someone else's schedule. When we get there, we're going to spend our first hour of the morning preparing for who we're going to call. That's your scripts, your role play. Who are you calling? What are you going to say? What's your reason for calling? What value are you going to add? Are you calling buyers? Are you calling sellers? Figure out who you're calling, figure out what you're going to say to them. And then you're going to spend the whole next hour lead generating. You're going to do what you said you were going to do in the first hour. And then hour number 3, that's what you're going to maintain. So all of the conversations you had with your leads, that's when that goes in your database. Anything that you promise them, a CMA or some properties you're going to send them, you spend the next third hour maintaining the leads that you had a conversation with. And I got into a lot of trouble with this when I was new and I was prospecting. Like I'd be on the phone and they would be like, yeah, I want some properties. I'm like, okay, perfect. And then I'd spend the next 45 minutes looking for properties in the MLS for that one conversation that I had, instead of setting a time block to actually maintain and do all of the things that I said I was going to do. So I was missing out on more conversations. So I love this. And if you could even add like an extra, you have nothing going on, like you should be doing hour 1 prepare, hour 2, 3, and 4. You should be lead generating, and then maintain it at the end of the day. Like if you don't have any appointments, this 3-hour prospecting formula should encompass your entire day.
Yep. And something that you should do is write down every single step that you take. So that goes back into the system, right? So I make my phone calls. Okay, where do I put those people that I talk to? Like where do the nurtures, the hots, like where do they go? And then what happens with them after? And then what happens with them a week from now, 2 weeks from now, a month, a quarter, next year? So and essentially what you're doing, you're just putting them on a vehicle, and that vehicle is just gonna, or a train is even a better analogy. And the train's just gonna take them on a journey. But in the beginning, you won't have that because in the beginning, it's just way too crazy to build out the system and then start doing it, right? I think that's what I got stuck in the beginning. I wanted this perfect thing, this perfect machine, and have all the cogs in place, but I wasn't actually doing anything. So when I started then executing, I realized, well, crap, like this doesn't even work. Yeah. And I could have just taken the action first and then built a system around it, right? Because it's much easier to adjust when you're already in it and maintaining that regular lead generation schedule and execution. So that's awesome.
Yep. So that rolls us into tactic number 5. Why don't you take this one away, Jonas?
Lead conversion. I'm going to bounce off what you kind of said, because lead conversion comes down for me to like one thing, and it's communicating with your clients. That's all that it is. And it's a skill. It's really a skill, because I think that a lot of people kind of get into this like salesy type of mindset, which there's sales involved, it is, but it's really, how are you going to uncover motivation, and how are you going to help them understand what the best options are for them? Because that's really what your job is. You are an advisor. You're not supposed to convince them to sell their home. I mean, it's stupid anyway, because then the whole journey is going to, if they're not really in it, then the whole journey is going to be bad. Same with buyers. So that lead conversion for me goes back to scripting, practicing with your role play partner, putting yourself in the actual situation where maybe you take another agent to an open house, you pretend that you're the homeowner, and you door knock and you play out the entire conversation. Because when you're doing that in front of the prospect, you're going to make mistakes, and you need to anticipate what mistakes you're going to make, and you need to be able to say the things that you need to say and get them across in a way where you can draw them in, spark curiosity. So that's really all that lead conversion is. For me, it comes down to scripting.
So I feel like, I mean, I agree with what the book says. The book says that lead conversion is a process on its own, and it's like interpreted as an event that just naturally occurs on its own. So it's really misunderstood. But I feel like when we like a closing, to get a lead converted and closed, right, turn it into a sale, this is a 3-step process. You have to capture the lead, you have to convert it, and then you have to close it. And lead conversion and closing are 2 different things. So a lot of people will think like, oh, I had a conversation with this person, I've converted it. Well, really? Because to me, conversion means that you have an appointment with them, right? You have an appointment that could turn into a contract. So every single phone call that you make should have an appointment as the goal and the opportunity to get in front of them. Later in this podcast, I'm going to go over some closing techniques that, like are all the traditional ones, but they work. But really every single phone call should end with, I think we should meet, or some form of that. Can we get together? Would it be okay if we get together? I think this is a great opportunity to get together. Anytime that I'm talking on the phone with a buyer, it doesn't matter if they're one of my hot buyers. My conversation is, we need to set an appointment to look at houses. Well, we don't have anything we need to see. My calendar fills up fast. I'm available on Thursday or Friday. We need to set an appointment to look at houses. We don't have any houses to see on Thursday and Friday. We can reschedule, but I need to get you in my calendar now. Like there always is an appointment scheduled for every single one of my hot clients, for somebody that I'm just talking to, this is a really great conversation. It sounds like we need to discuss more in detail some next steps. I'd love to get you in for a consultation. When can we come in? When can you come in? You know, and I'm always trying to get the appointment no matter what.
Yeah. And that's how you don't lose out on those leads too, you know, because I think oftentimes you'll talk to people and then they just like float and lull and you just, you know,
Yeah, exactly. And like rapport and everything and connection is right. Obviously, don't ask for the appointment if it doesn't feel appropriate, you know. But I mean, really, it's what harm is it going to do? Like, because if you don't ask them for the appointment, like it's always a no. But like if you do ask for it, at least you have a 50% chance of getting a yes, which makes my odds way better that way. And most people will agree to meet with you. And if they can't come into your office, hello, we've been living on Zoom for the last 3 years. So like get them in for a virtual consultation. Anything is possible. Like your fear of rejection is what's holding you back for asking you for that appointment. So like time to get that out.
And real quick, I think what is important to understand is when you're going for the appointment, it's not to have them go and buy a house with you. Like that should not be the idea of your outcome. What it should really be is like, hey, I'm meeting them to give them value, to show that I'm an expert, and to stay top of mind. So when they think about real estate and I send them a postcard and I follow up with them, they're not like, oh, who's this? You want to be that person when they think of real estate, they think of you. Absolutely. And with a face-to-face, you know, like you said, that can be over Zoom, that opens the door because it's really, you get to know them, you get to talk with them, you see them, you can see how they interact with you. And so it's not like, that's why you don't have to really go into it being fearful of rejection because you're not asking for anything. That's the way that I see it.
You are a trusted advisor before you're ever a realtor.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and so, so when you're like talking to leads and stuff, the best way that you can convert them and get that appointment is to connect with them. And we have 6 questions that you can ask them that are really good connection questions. So if you guys don't have time to write this down, just let us know that you want a copy of this. What is this presentation that we made?
Yeah, we have it in a PDF file, so we can send it to anybody. Just put it in the comments.
Yep, exactly. So go ahead with the connection questions, Jonas.
So number 1 is, who are they? And it's really, you want to find out, you know, not just like, yeah, my name is Kaila, my name is Jonas, like what's important to them? What do they want or need to do? Where do they want or need to do it? What's their why? Like what is really the reason why someone is thinking about selling or buying or moving in general? Like that's, for me, is the biggest motivator that I will always go back to. When there's problems, I will always go back to the why, because that is an emotional connection to that client rather than a logical one. So if we have a logical problem, which is price, you cannot overcome that with a logical solution. It has to be coming from an emotional standpoint. So 5th one is, when does that want or need to be fulfilled, and how do they plan on doing it? So what is their plan of action? And I think these 6 questions,
the who, what, where, when, and why.
What'd you say?
Who, what, where, when, and why.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I mean, that's really sums it up. That's true.
Yeah.
And I mean, what do you do with that information?
So I feel like a full lead is somebody that has the name, the address, telephone number, and email address. And then if you have all that information, like what more information can you get? I teach the FORD acronym. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's a really great way to build rapport. And it's friends and family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. And we do like kind of a FORD sandwich. So it's basically like we do the F and the O. You know, like, how are you? You know, tell me about your family. Tell me what your needs are. You know, what do you guys do for work? Things like that. And then, okay, so the reason why I'm calling is I just have a couple of questions that I need to go over so I can best help you. You know, what kind of home are you looking for? Like, what are the important things for you? Where do you want to live? What neighborhood do you want to be in? Do you need to be in any school districts? Why are you moving? Is there something about your house right now that you don't like? Are you a renter? You know, why are you wanting to make this change? Because if we don't understand the why, then we don't understand the motivation. And really honestly, like this is the kind of market where people who just want to move probably shouldn't move, right? They probably shouldn't buy a house. The people who need to buy a house right now are the ones who should be buying a house. When do they want to do it? How soon do you need to be out by? How are you going to do this? Are you going to have cash? Do you have financing? And then, tell me a little bit about some things you have going on. We jump right into, the rest of the Ford method. Are you guys have anything exciting going on this weekend? Are you checking out Art Town or whatever? Right. And, let me know if there's any goals or anything like that I can help you with, because that's what's important to me, is that I help you out with those. So that's a really great way to like connect with people and kind of get through these answers. And you don't have to do it in that order. Do it in the flow that comes naturally for you, but have a system that you can punch off in your head, and then make sure you're actually listening to what they're saying, because what they say, your next question is going to be embedded in their answer, whatever they say. So if you're like, okay, O's next. How's work going? And they're like, I just told you about what? And they're kind of like,
it's a very unnatural flow of the conversation.
Yeah. So use the acronym as a way, like if you get stuck and you need a conversation starter, but please let the conversation flow naturally. If you come off scripted, then it's really tough. I get a lot of sales calls and I'll listen to them. And I'll be like, hey, do me a favor. Would you maybe like say that again, but don't read your script because you're reading a script.
Yeah. And I think it's funny, not to go into scripts too much, but I think people like misunderstand the whole point of it. It's like you have to understand what to say. So you have to learn the script, but then what's more important is how you say it.
Mm-hmm.
The words are really not that important. It's like the way that you come across over the phone, because if that person that you were just mentioning, I mean, if it sounds like they're reading something off, obviously they don't know what they're saying, and they can't bring it across in a way that would, entice somebody to take action.
Exactly. Let's dive into the 10 closes. Excuse me, the 10 classic closes at work. Do you want to do like the first 5 and I'll do the other 5?
Sure. So you have them here kind of categorized a little bit as hard, soft, direct, indirect. So first one is let's meet. So you'd obviously like say that at the end of a conversation, that where you obviously have already built a little bit of rapport. The second one is a little bit softer. I've really enjoyed our conversation. We should meet, and you can, it's not like, oh, we should meet. It's like, maybe we can grab some coffee, or you just make it a very casual, non-close meeting. Yeah. The direct close, can we meet today? I use that a lot. Or what I'll do, can we meet at 3, or does 5 p.m. work better for you?
Yes.
Because when I have a hot lead, I'm like, I'll call them every day. I call them multiple times, and I want to get in there. I don't give them necessarily yes or no options. So kind of like that, hey, can we meet then or then? And usually they will go for one of the times, or they just tell me a different time.
Yeah, well, I want to let them know that I'm not like easily available either. I feel like a realtor with too much time on their hands is probably not a great one. So, like your doctor's office does not say, well, what day can you come in? I've got everything available. They're like, I've got July 31st, at 2 p.m. Can you do that? No. Okay. Well, the next one in August, right? So like you should have options and give them. And if that doesn't work, give them 2 more options, but like 2 at a time. I'm open. Whatever works for you works for me.
Number 3. Oh, sorry, I just said that. Number 4, indirect close. Would it be okay if you got some more information to look over, and then we can meet to discuss? I love that one because it gives it a reason. Just like, hey, let's just meet. It's like, hey, I have something of value to you. Yeah. Let's just meet. I'll go over it with you. Number 5.
Well, the indirect close. Like if you guys have like engineer type people, like people who like to read all the contract verbiage and everything like that, like the indirect close is perfect for those types of personalities, because they appreciate that. Like all of my engineers, I send them copies and I give them like at my consultation for listing or buyer consultation, I bring a blank copy of all the paperwork I'm going to have them sign, because they're going to go home and read every single word. And they will not make any decisions until they have digested everything. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, I think it's good to mention that you have to treat individual, fitting to their personality, which goes back to the questions that we just went over, the 6 before. So the trial close, have we gone over enough today that meeting would be our next step?
Ooh, I love
Putting
that.
them into the position of power, which I love. That's great.
Exactly. The assumptive close is, it sounds like we should meet. I'm available this time and this time. What works for you? I use the assumptive close all the time, especially like if I'm making spear phone calls and the conversation's lasting more than like 3 minutes and I really just wanted to check in and say, hey. And it's like, dude, sounds like we got a lot to talk about. We should meet. Can we get together for lunch? Because I'm always trying to get that face-to-face regardless of who I'm talking to. And then same thing with buyers or sellers. Like, we've gone over a lot of information today. There's so much more that we need to cover. It sounds like we should meet. So that one's a good one. The negative positive close. I use this a lot too. Would you be offended if I asked if we could meet to go over this information?
Love that
And
one.
You're asking, and people are like, "Oh, no, I'm not offended at all."
Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah. So the take back close, I also use this one a lot and I love the power. This is like a psychological hack. I really enjoyed speaking with you, but to be honest, I'm not sure if I can help you out. But I would be honored if we could get together and go over the information so we could find out if we're a good fit for each other.
Nice.
It gives them permission.
Anything that has this like I don't know, like you're really not like wanting to meet, you're just finding out if it even makes, is so much more it's so much more powerful than saying, hey, like we should meet, like we should definitely go over this, like, and you're just like, no, we should talk, we should meet,
And it's actually really powerful for sellers when you're doing your listing consultations, because they may be like, yeah, I'm really not sure. I just say, hey, look, we both need to be a good fit for each other. It's super important that you interview multiple agents, that you find the one that's going to work for you. And I want to make sure I'm that person. So we really need to get together and have a conversation so we both can decide if this is going to be a good business partnership moving forward.
Yeah, exactly.
There's the tie down close, which is, wouldn't it make sense for us to meet? And the alternative choice close is, what works better for you, meeting today sometime or next week, which Jonas, you said that you use quite a bit. So, so seller tactic number 6, which I think this is really important to cover, is seller pricing strategies right now. I don't know about you, Jonas. We kind of talked about this earlier, but my listings, they're sitting, they're not doing anything, no showings. No, nothing.
Same. I had one listing last October. We had about 4 to 5 offers, and and they didn't accept any because they were just slightly under asking. But yeah, nothing this time around. That one offer, I have had a couple calls, but yep, they're definitely sitting. I think we need to fly over the last couple ones here a little bit faster because we're coming up on time. But like I said, if anybody wants a full presentation, just put it in the comments, and we'll send you the whole PDF for it.
Yeah. So basically, you guys want to price ahead of the market. The book says that if someone is to buy their house, sellers must be aware of and buy into the concept that there's a window of opportunity. The phenomenon means that when a home first comes on the market, it attracts the attention the most from the agents who are currently working with motivated buyers, or those agents who are motivated by the price to go and find one. If the agent or the buyer believes the house is poorly priced, you're going to lose out on your opportunity, and it won't draw enough attention. So you guys want to price ahead of the market. So right now, we still have a lot of sellers that are trying to test the market and trying to get the prices that we've been like seeing, with the aggressiveness. But it's really not happening. So a lot of them are, all the price reductions we see, I just say, is like another seller coming to terms with the reality of the current market that we're in. And the best way that you guys can price out a home is be a student of your market, know your numbers, focus on your main comps. Those are the pendings and the solds. Days to contract are super important on those pendings, and then go and look at the listing and see exactly what was going on. Comp that listing, see how they came up with that number. Call the agent. Be a student of property. Go and preview homes so you can understand what's selling and what's not and why. Keep your presentation as current as possible. Let all your numbers do the talking. Pre-qualify for motivation. Only work with sellers who want to sell and need to sell. And always secure price reductions in advance at the listing table, so that way you already know and you don't fall behind on the market.
Yeah.
Do you want to go over standout from the competition, tactic number 7? I know we got started a little bit late, so sorry we're keeping you guys after 10 today.
Yeah, stand up from the competition. The book talks a lot about staging, right? I think they go over kind of, that it's not really if we should stage, but how we're going to stage it.
Yeah.
And when I think about like standing out, I think what is also super important to understand, and this applies more to listings, is know who your ideal buyer for that listing would look like. Is it a first-time home buyer? Is it an older family? Is it someone?
Is it a move up?
Exactly. Is it a move up? So what I do in my listings, I apply the 80-20 rule. So I think of the ideal buyer. I draw an avatar there, that age. These are the hobbies that they have. I physically make a persona, and then I go into the house and draw out key features that I know that person will love. Because any house that they're going to look at, it's going to have a certain amount of bedrooms and bathrooms. It might have, a certain type of countertop. But what I want to do is I want to have the ideal buyer imagine themselves in the house.
Exactly.
So that when they walk in, and before they even walk in,
right,
you stage with their description, and then you stage with your images. So I think the first impression here is everything. So that when they walk through the door, they have kind of already made the decision in their mind, at least to some extent, and they're just confirming that now with a physical showing.
Exactly. So when does the first showing happen?
What do you mean when it's online? Online is
online. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
When we're preparing our sellers for listing photos, we have them clear all the countertops. I have a whole list that I go through. I do like an ABC list. All the A things absolutely have to be done before photography happens. All the B stuff is my, should be done if you can get to it. And my C list is like, fingers crossed, if you can do it, great. If not, that's like replacing carpet and flooring and stuff. Doing like full blown paint, things like that. But after the photos, they can go back to living life as normal because I just need the photos to look great. And if you are not using a professional photographer, you are going to
get out of here.
In this market. Use a professional photographer. It's like $250 to $450 for listing photos. Some of them will bill through escrow. Please do not use your cell phone camera ever. You are, even if you have a professional camera, you are not a real estate photographer. Hire somebody. But take yourself through the process of when you're pulling out to a house, what's the first thing that you notice, right? It's the curb appeal, then the entryway. Kitchen and bathrooms are super important. The master bedroom is super important. Then they go to the other living areas. Then they go to the other bedrooms, and then they go to the backyard, right? These are the deal breakers for people. So make sure that when you have a listing and it's ready for showings, that you're walking through the house and you're paying attention to those things kind of in that order, so you can see what the buyer is going to see. And you can kind of create a sense of buyer urgency, which is tactic number 8. So we have 4 strategies to overcome buyer reluctance, and then we're going to roll into tactic number 9, which is creative financing. Both of these will be pretty short because I think they're pretty self-explanatory. What do you think? 4 stages?
Sorry, say that one more time.
4 stages to overcome buyer reluctance.
Yeah, I think so. The first one is here. Why wait? The hazards of incorrectly timing the market, which in my opinion is something that's impossible anyway. I think what you have to figure out is really what the amount of time is that you are going to spend in that home. And then based on that time, does it make sense to buy now or not? Because I also do not agree with the notion that the real estate market always goes up. Yeah, I mean, over the last 100 years it does, but there's definitely some dips in there that have lasted. If I would have lived in a house for 4 to 5 years between 06 and 010, that would have not been a great choice. So I think just knowing what your goal is, if it's a forever home for you, then who cares? Who cares? Nothing matters. The price doesn't matter. The interest rate doesn't matter. You can always go back to refinancing. So I think timing the market's is not an option.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things too that I'm hearing a lot is oh, the interest rates are so high. And I'm like, but when they were low, you were paying $10,000, $15,000, $30,000 over asking and bridging appraisal gaps with your own money. How is that any different than paying a higher interest rate? Right now, you can take that payment that you were going to overpay, right? You were going to bridge an appraisal gap of $10,000, $15,000. use that money to buy your rate down. Like, you were going to
Yeah.
spend it in that market. You're going to spend it in this market. Buying a house is not free. You have to know how to effectively and strategically use the money that you have available for you.
Yeah, exactly. And usually the best time to buy is when not everybody wants to buy.
In a down market.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
There's no competition right now. Sellers are giving concessions.
Yeah.
Repair allowances are back. Like, there is so much opportunity. Like, buyers had zero negotiation power. And like, that's what I want people to understand. And that's how I create urgency. Like, literally 6 months ago, you had zero negotiation power. You had to give the seller whatever they wanted, right?
And more.
And more. Now you're in a unique position to where you hold all of the negotiation power, and the seller has to give you what you want. Like, who doesn't want to buy in that market?
Exactly. Especially like if you're worried about the interest rate, and if you stay there for an average between 4 to 7 years, chances are pretty high that you're going to be able to refi. And if, as long as you can make that payment work and it falls below 30% of your total income, then go for it.
Well, and don't follow the herd. Everybody's like, we're going to wait for prices to come down. We're going to wait. Hi. Is it okay? Sure. Bye. If you're going to stay with the herd and you're going to wait for interest rates and prices to come down, you're going to be back in that same bucket of people who are overpaying for homes. Right now, you're not overpaying for homes. You're actually getting the true value, the appraised value of the property. And that's a huge, huge problem for buyers, is overpaying for something, right? So it's much safer to transact right now in a down market versus waiting until prices come down and interest rates come down and everybody's going to jump on the boat.
Yeah, then you're going to be overpaying again.
Yeah. It's also a great opportunity to trade up right now. I know a lot of objections that people had a couple months ago was we can't move because we can't find a house. We're not willing to pay like ridiculous amounts over asking. So this is a perfect trade up market. So anybody who's been in their house like 5+ years, time to get on the phone and call them.
Yeah, because I mean, even with the market shift happening, the equity that somebody's living in that maybe bought in 2015 is still very, very significant. And then for them to go and buy puts them in a really great position.
Exactly. Also, the other thing to overcome buyer reluctance is there's a ridiculous amount of inventory. I think one of my listings has like 37 homes competing with it in the same area, right? Do not go out and show your buyer all 37 of those houses. Have them narrow down their top 3 to 5 out of a list of like 10. And go out and only show them those homes. I feel like after 3 homes, everything turns into like mishmash in your brain, and you can't identify like which one had that backyard again, which one had this, and make sure you take notes for your clients during the showings. But less is more. The fewer homes that you show, the more clear your clients are going to be. So if they give you this massive list of stuff, sit down on the phone and go over each listing with them and find out why they chose that listing to see.
Yeah.
And then just be like, you mentioned to me that you didn't really want to live in this neighborhood. Like, is it really important that we go see this house? Because it's really not in the location we discussed was important to you. And then find the best buy. Do your own research on the market. Find a house that's a good deal, and then go into your buyers.
Yeah.
All right. So creative financing. I feel like this has been the buzz. I see a lot of creative financing stuff on TikTok from lenders right now. But there's 3 areas of creative financing. Why don't you go through these, Jonas, as far as like what sellers can do, what buyers can do, and what lenders can do?
Yeah, there's actually a bunch, which is awesome. So if you want to have more info, I would just like start studying, because just us mentioning it is probably not going to give you the full picture, but I think this is a really good summary. So creative things that sellers can do to sell their house, obviously seller credits, seller funded rate buy down. I think we see that a lot happening right now, where sellers are giving buyers concessions to buy down the rate. Owner financing, so essentially you don't involve a bank, the seller becomes the bank, and you just pay your mortgage payment to them. Seller second, lease option and lease purchase, and then obviously price reductions, and those are all over the place right now. You want to take the second pillar?
Sure. So there's creative things that buyers can do to purchase a home. They can get a gift. There's also programs out there where like I think you can use like credit card for down payment or something. Yeah. I know a few lenders have that program. Selling or refinancing your existing assets. Using a co-borrower, you can use your 401k to buy a house. There is a temporary IRA transfer that you can do. Make sure you talk to a CPA about that. Equity transfer and bridge loans. Those have been around for a really long time. Employer assistance, and really like there's way more than that, but I think that rolls into like what lenders can do.
Yeah. And then what lenders can do to finance a transaction, lender funded buy down. So kind of what we talked in the first one, but now it's coming from the lender, not from the seller. Running scenarios with automated underwriting systems, adjusting amortization periods for the lower payment so that your monthly payment is lower, and adjust interest rates to cover closing costs and local government grants and programs, and then private lenders. And then private lenders similar to owner financing, but essentially you're not involving a bank. That's kind of just me going to Kaila and say, hey, can you give me X amount of money? I want to buy this house and I will pay you 4% over the next 3 years. I actually just did a deal like this because she did not want to pull money out of her 401k. So we had a friend, and the document that you need for that is a promissory note. So that's got to be involved, but your title company will help you with that.
Yeah. We have all those resources. And then another thing that we're seeing a lot of is just the seller credit buy down for the rate. You know, the buyer's pitching money that they already had set aside that they were planning to overpay for that house, remember? So they've got funds set aside for that. The seller can provide a credit, and then the lender can also provide a credit on top of it. So when you're going, and I'm seeing like all these price reductions, like I'm like, why would you redo? What good is it going to do for a buyer to drop your price by 10 grand when you can give them that $10,000 credit and maybe cut out almost $300 of their payment, which would make that house affordable? I mean, literally a 1.5% buy down, I believe, gives the buyer another $50,000, $50,000 of purchase power. Like,
that's crazy.
That is huge. So talk to your lender with your buyers and just say, hey, you know, if we got a seller credit of X amount of dollars or a 1.5% or whatever, what would that do to my buyer's payment, and how would that increase their purchase power? And then you're looking at more expensive homes at that point, and you can negotiate better terms for your client. So a house that is overpriced, that's been sitting on the market for 29 days, hasn't had any showings or contracts, you know, they may be open to doing some creative financing with you, and you can literally maximize your buyer's purchase power just by getting creative and using your lender partners.
Yeah, and remember, it's not like you have to pick one. Like you can do a lender rate buy down, you can do a seller rate buy down. You know, you can do the price reduction. Like you can combine a lot of these things, and then just imagine the possibilities that you have in this market versus like 6 months ago, they would have laughed you out the door.
Yeah.
No, you know what I mean? This is not possible. Like
not possible.
Not possible. Not possible.
So our final tactic is bulletproof your transactions. I've been seeing a lot of back on markets lately, in addition to the multitude of price reductions. And it always makes me wonder, like, what happened in that transaction? And now buyers are in a position to where they can be more choosy, more picky. They can kind of like, you know, like if the things are going wrong, like they've got a lot to choose from right now. So your sellers are in a unique position to where like you really have to do what you can to hold the deal together. So I feel like the biggest hiccups in a transaction are like inspections and the appraisal, lack of communication, and no system to get through the transaction. So, you know, I use a transaction coordinator, so things like that don't fall to the wayside. She's amazing. I literally send her the contract. She takes care of all my communication for me. It really helps me leverage my time so I can get more contracts into place. But we have a system for the entire process, and we also know what's coming up. And we can prepare our clients like, hey, you know, inspections are happening. We do a pre-listing inspection on every single listing that we do because I want to remove that objection from my transaction. You know what I mean? So what kind of things do you do to bulletproof your transaction? And then
so being a solo agent, a lot of people, you know, were like kind of in the beginning, you should, you know, not use a TC. But I've actually never not had a TC on a transaction. Because in my mind, this is not the expert status that I am looking for, I'm building for. So I have somebody that looks over it. I think for me, it's also like communication, just making the buyer and the seller aware, like you said, with the pre-inspection, and just over-communicating. I almost like to paint a absolute catastrophic picture And then if it ends up better, that's great. But if I say, oh, everything's going to be fine, and then things end up being worse, the expectation was not met, we filed a contract. So I usually like to paint a very, very dramatic and negative picture when it comes to transaction. And then, we have these conversations on a weekly basis with the clients when we're in contract, and they're like, man, this is going really well. I was like, yeah, it's going amazing. Because I set an expectation of it's gonna be bad, So
Exactly.
that has worked well for me, So just try out and see. I think it also depends on your personality type and the way that you're, the way that the fit is with the client, and the way where you can take that conversation or the communication. But yeah, I think TC is huge help.
That's awesome. So let's go ahead and put a bow on this. Before we do, I want to just kind of address some of the comments that have been in the box. Somebody said burnout is so real. We need our cup filled. You have to take time out. I 100% agree with that. Somebody else said that they realized Constant Contact has been billing them twice for months. You got to look at
you don't notice this stuff sometimes because you're like, oh,
no. Another person recommended Dave Ramsey for budgeting. And then another gal mentioned KV Core Open House app. It connects with attendees and automatically starts touching them. So really, really cool. Somebody asked to repeat the name of the book. It is The Shift by Gary Keller. The Shift. I know my mirror is backwards, but it's on Amazon. The Shift by Gary Keller. I have multiple page and highlights in here. This is my Bible right now. And then would love the PDF connection questionnaire. So I'm going to send that out. So another one, love the presentation. Need your ABC. So I'll get that sent out. So right now is a great opportunity. If you want any of the resources that we talked about today, the presentation, I'm happy to send over my ABC list, the name of the book, all those things. Please put your email in the comments, or you can reach out to us directly. Jonas, what's the best way that people can get in touch with you?
Probably Instagram, just Jonas Buchholz, and then jonas.buchholz@exprealty.com if you guys just want to reach out to me via email right away. And we can put those in the comments too, just so that it's easier for people.
Awesome. Yeah, how do you spell your fancy last name?
It's Buchholz. I know. I don't know what to do about that. I might have to change my name someday. I'm not going to.
You can just take your wife's last name. I'm sure it's easier.
Yeah, my wife's last name, we actually talked about it. Her name is Blazer, which is kind of cool. So
perfect.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it though. I'm not going to do it. I got too much German heritage in me to
I love it. I can be reached. My email is kbailey, BAILEY, at Kaila, KAILA, washere.com. So please email me. You can also find me on TikTok at Kaila.
You have to check her out on TikTok. She's awesome.
Yeah, everything is Kaila.
Go and check her out.
If you type in Kaila Was Here in the Google search, you'll probably find every single one of my socials, but my name is spelled with an I. And I'd love to hear from you guys. I'd love to connect with you, brainstorm. Thanks for staying on with us 12 minutes past our hour. And you guys rock. We'll see you guys next month.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.